Part 8. Fantasy, I am the big boss behind the scenes. Author, Guanyun Taoist. Chapter 71. The Demon Emperor's ruler is said to be the ultimate divine weapon forged by the Demon Emperor after he reached the pinnacle of the imperial path. It has the power to measure the heaven and earth and reshape the universe. It was only later that the Demon Emperor took action, and it was broken when he attacked the immortal road, leaving eternal hatred in the air. This secret realm is related to the Demon King and millions of years of history. Perhaps, I can use this secret realm as an entry point to reveal to the world the truth about a corner of a million years ago. In the secret space, Qin Mu said thoughtfully. Previously, he had a grand plan brewing in his mind. To reshape the history of millions of years ago. However, there is still one most critical issue. Since millions the history of years ago was so glorious and prosperous. Why has the history before the ancient times disappeared, as if it had been completely wiped out from the world? What happened during this period? Why are there gaps in history? These are all things Qin Mu needs to go through, problems to be solved. It is not enough to just reshape the history of millions of years ago and fill in this blank history. In the process, he also has to lay out a shocking picture and explain to all living beings the reasons for the historical faults. Ancient history is truly connected. And this secret realm related to the Demon Emperor is the starting point of this shocking situation in Qin Mu's imagination. While shocking all living beings, it will also reveal the truth to all living beings. A corner of the truth shaped by Qin Mu from a million years ago. Exchange for the broken Demon King ruler. Exchange for a majestic ancient palace. Exchange. In the secret space, Qin Mu kept exchanging what he needed. 8 million, 7 million, 6 million, 4 million, the shock points passed crazily, but Qin Mu never blinked. And as the shock points passed, an extremely grand and glorious secret realm gradually became a reality in Qin Mu's conception. Finally, after a day, Qin Mu finally left the secret space. He has already completed the construction of this sixth secret realm. It is obviously not good to place this secret realm in human territory. When the secret realm comes out, many innocent human beings may be harmed. Where should it be placed? Qin Mu thought. The secret realm has been constructed, and the next step is to release it. However, this secret realm is related to the Demon Emperor, and there has been a lot of movement after his birth. Not only will it attract the powerful people from the ancient tribes, but also it will attract the strong men of the demon clan. If this secret realm is placed in the human race, it may pose a great threat to some weak human beings. This secret realm is more suitable for placement in some wild and sparsely populated areas. The ground. After thinking for a moment, Qin Mu's eyes lit up, and he seemed to have thought of something. Then he closed his eyes and sensed something, and couldn't help but laugh. I almost forgot about this guy. Well, it's just right to place this secret realm here, and with this guy here, there shouldn't be any problem in opening this secret realm. After saying that, Qin Mu's figure disappeared from the place, and following the induction in his mind, he searched for somewhere in the eastern wasteland. Eastern Wasteland, 10,000 Demons Ridge. The 10,000 Yaos Ridge is the territory of the monster clan, with mountains stretching endlessly high. It is connected to the territory of the ancient 10,000 tribes and the human race, and is located where the three forces gather. This is an ancient land with majestic mountains and thousand-year-old trees standing tall like horned dragons, lush and green. From time to time, one can hear heart-stopping roars of beasts roaring through the mountains and forests. But among the mountains, there was a human Taoist priest running wildly, desperately running forward. And this human Taoist priest is none other than Duan Yun's Hung, whom he has not seen for several days. Damn it, these lunatics are still chasing you. Pandeo just dug up one of your ancestral graves. You are so poor and don't have any treasures. Is it worth you going to such a big fight? Duan Yun's Hung ran forward with all his strength, panting at the same time. After leaving the sacred mountain that day and getting the treasure hunting plate, Duan Yunzhong immediately started his revenge plan. He set off overnight and arrived among the ancient tribes. In the territory of the Yu clan, their ancestral graves must be dug up to retaliate for being hunted down before. The Yu clan was also unlucky. First, Qin Mu used the Yu Jiao emperor killing formation to wipe out a descendant of the king's blood and some members of the clan. Now, they were killed again by the human tomb robbers were targeting him and wanted to dig up his ancestral grave. Before, it was not so easy for Duan Yunzhong to dig up the royal ancestor's grave. But now with the help of the treasure hunt plate, he is like a tiger with even more wings. The Yu clan probably didn't expect that someone was so bold that he really dared to dig up the ancestral tomb of his family, and Duan Yunzhong succeeded without any surprise. However, when Duan Yunzhong followed the instructions on the treasure hunt plate and dug up an ancient tomb of his ancestors, he was extremely depressed. Because there were no ancient tombs in the tomb. There are no treasures that are too rare. The only thing that can be considered a treasure is probably the skeleton of the ancient king that faded after his death. After risking countless difficulties, he finally dug up the ancestral tomb of the ancient king. How could Duan Yunzhong? Can you bear to gain nothing? So he simply set up the skeleton of the royal ancestor and left. Not long after leaving, he was discovered by the creatures on duty from the Yu clan. At this time, the giants of the Yu clan were furious, and the tombs of his ancestors were destroyed. Not only did they dig it up, but the thieves also stole the bones of their ancestors. Such arrogant actions are simply provoking the entire Yu clan and are intolerable. Even the royal ancestor of the Yu clan is angry, inciting the laws of heaven and earth to investigate Duan Yunzhong in the direction of escape. He chased after him personally, vowing to recover the bones of his ancestors. Fortunately, Duan Yunzhong had left for a while and ran out for a distance, otherwise he would have been torn into pieces by the angry ancient king of the Yu clan. Even so, Duan Yunzhong had already used all his strength to escape, but the ancient king of the Feather clan was still chasing after him, and like a tarsal maggot, he couldn't get rid of him at all. Now he had escaped to the territory of the Demon clan, but the ancient king who followed him was still chasing after him. Wang, it seems he has no intention of stopping. A skeleton of an ancient king. This is a rare treasure. With this bone, you can even train a holy weapon. Do you really want to throw it away? Feeling the aura from behind that was getting closer and closer, full of endless rage and fury, Duan Yunzhong felt very distressed. He was somewhat reluctant to throw away the skeleton of the royal ancestor he had obtained. Just when Duan Yunzhong was hesitant, the treasure hunt plate in his hand, it started spinning crazily. Then the pointer pointed in a certain direction, and in the end, even the entire compass turned into brilliant gold. There is a treasure in that direction. The sudden change of the treasure hunting plate shocked Duan Yunzhong. He knew that the treasure hunting plate would only have such a reaction when the treasure existed. The opportunities that existed in the place pointed by the compass were obviously better than those of the royal ancestor's skeleton. Much more important. Go check it out first. Duan Yunzhong gritted his teeth and did not abandon the bones of the ancestors he had obtained. Instead, he ran in the direction pointed by the compass. Anyway, the ancestors behind him would not be able to catch up with him for a while. Duan Yunzhong wanted to take this time to take a look. What kind of treasure is it that can cause such a violent reaction to the treasure hunt plate? Moreover, Duan Yunzhong knows that wherever the treasure is hidden, there are usually great dangers. It must be unimaginable that the treasure hunt plate can have such a violent reaction. The most precious treasure. If you are lucky, you may not have to run away anymore, and you can use the power of heaven and earth to teach the ancient king who follows you a profound lesson. Fantasy, I am the big boss behind the scenes. Author, Guanyun Taoist. Chapter 72. Wanyaling Mountains are full of continuous mountains, towering ancient trees, and lush greenery. Duan Yunzhong followed the guidance of the treasure hunt plate and ran all the way to the depths of Wanyao Ridge. As he continued to move forward, the treasure hunt plate in Duan Yunzhen's hand trembled violently, and no longer glowed with golden light, but shone with 9 colors, which was very mysterious. 9 colors. Looking at the treasure hunt plate in his hand, Duan Yunzhen's eyes widened, as if he had seen something unbelievable. When he got the treasure hunt plate, he knew the efficacy of the treasure hunt plate. With the improvement of the quality of the treasure hunt plate, the reactions are also different. The treasure hunt plate shines with 9 colors, and the meaning it represents is really extraordinary. Only if it is related to the Supreme Being, the treasure hunt plate will shine with 9 colors. The 10,000 demons ridge deep. Is there a treasure at the extreme level here? Duan Yunzhen's heart was pounding, and he couldn't help but speed up his feet. If this is really the case, the secrets buried deep in the 10,000 demon ridge are simply unimaginable. Running forward all the way, Duan Yunzhong, we finally arrived at the deepest part of 10,000 demon ridge. This place has continuous mountains and rivers and ancient trees. The aura that makes the treasure hunt tremble is emanating from here. Don't you see anything extraordinary? Duan Yunzhong was puzzled and frowned. From the appearance alone, there was nothing surprising here, and there was no sign that there was any ultimate treasure hidden there. Duan Yunzhong was puzzled, but he still followed the instructions on the treasure hunt plate, exploring this place carefully. Finally, he seemed to have discovered something. In the place where the treasure hunt plate trembled most violently, there was a small protrusion on the ground, like a small tomb. The tomb was very ordinary, as if it had been erected here casually. There were weeds all around. If he hadn't followed the instructions on the treasure hunt plate, Duan Yunzhong wouldn't have been able to find it. But, would a treasure be buried under such a tomb? Duan Yunzhong was doubtful. This small tomb looked it was too ordinary, even a little shabby. If it were said that there was a treasure left by a being at the level of the ancient emperor buried in this tomb, I am afraid no one would believe it. Duan Yunzhong was confused, gritted his teeth, and wanted to break open the tomb to find out the truth. But just when he was about to take action, an unspeakable sense of terror suddenly filled his heart, making the hairs on his body stand up, as if just attacking this inconspicuous tomb would lead to a huge disaster. It was like a disaster. This sudden feeling made Duan Yunzhong break into a cold sweat. But at the same time, he seemed to have discovered something. In front of this small tomb, there was a dried wildflower. That was a wildflower. Has even dried up, and there is nothing surprising about it. But if you look closely, you can feel the vicissitudes and simplicity of this wildflower. It is as if this wildflower has been placed here for countless thousands of people. Years old, it was quite strange. Duan Yunzhong lowered his head and wanted to pick up this wildflower. But something shocking happened to him. No matter how hard he tried, this wildflower always stood quietly in front of the tomb, as if it weighed more than 10 million. June, it was impossible to pick it up. And at the same time, Duan Yunzhen's actions seemed to trigger something. In the void, dense lines of Taoism lit up, and an aura like the ancient times suddenly rose up from here, stirring in all directions. The invisible wave radiation spread outwards for unknown thousands of miles. The ancient vicissitudes and indescribable aura instantly alarmed countless ancient and powerful beings. The Dao lines were shining, the void was cracking, and a majestic and the vast ancient palace appears from the cracks in the void. The ancient palace rises and falls in the void, as if it is hanging in the sky. The power of time flows on the surface of the ancient palace, making people feel an extremely long-lasting breath, like it comes from a distant place. Ancient times. And there were wisps of black and yellow energy from heaven and earth hanging down from the top of the ancient palace, as if to suppress all the heavens and worlds. The scene was extremely amazing. There is actually a large formation here, covering all the atmosphere and whereabouts. No wonder I didn't notice it. Looking at the continuous Dao patterns in the void, Duan Yunzheng said in surprise. He finally knew why he couldn't sense anything when he arrived here. It turned out that there was a powerful hidden magic circle here, which blocked all auras, including that an extremely extraordinary ancient palace. Just now he touched the wildflower in front of the ancient tomb, which seemed to have touched the formation here. Then he activated the formation and made this ancient palace appear. However, when the ancient palace was born, the movement was too loud. It was so big that it instantly alerted several ancient and powerful beings in 10,000 Demon Ridge, and they rushed here quickly. Duan Yunzheng vaguely felt that there were powerful and terrifying auras coming from all directions, blocking all his escape routes. Damn it, there was such a big commotion. If I had known Master Dao, I wouldn't have come. Duan Yunzheng wanted to cry but had no tears. How could he have known that his unconscious action would cause such a big commotion? Now there are extremely terrifying strong men coming from all directions. He has become a turtle in the urn and cannot escape at all. Roar. An ape surrounded by black smoke, roaring to the sky. The sound was like a tsunami, rushing towards the direction where the ancient palace was born. This ape is really terrifying. It is hundreds of meters tall, and with one step, it reaches the endless mountains. Everything was trembling, and the hair on its body was thick and turned into a blood-red color. With one step, it was within the distance of several mountains. Wherever it passed, thousands of monsters and ferocious beasts were all crawling and did not dare to move. Phew! In the sky, there is a celestial Luan spreading its wings, covering the sky. The wings are all golden. The wings are waving, wind and thunder gather, and even the void is broken. Mao. The endless mountains trembled, and a golden sacred cow, which was as big as a small mountain and had golden hair, came with a sound like divine thunder, crushing the mountains. In the 10,000 Demon Ridge, the demonic energy boiled and shot straight into the sky. At this moment, several ancient and powerful statues, all the powerful demon clansmen, were alarmed by the news of the birth of the ancient palace, and rushed here one after another. At the same time, there were also 2 ancient kings with 18 pairs of wings, sweeping across the endless mountains, and also came here. The birth of the mysterious ancient palace completely ignited the place. For a time, the storm surged, and heroes gathered, all rushing to the place where the ancient palace was born. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Fantasy, I am the big boss behind the scenes. Author, Guanyun Taoist. Chapter 73. The birth of the magnificent ancient palace stirred up the laws of heaven and earth, and the evil spirit spread for thousands of miles. The powerful demon clan members in 10,000 Demon Ridge were all startled by this earth-shaking demonic energy fluctuation. Even near 10,000 Demon Ridge, within the territory of the ancient race and human race, there were strong men who were alerted and rushed towards 10,000 Demon Ridge. In the end, a total of 3 ancient saints from the demon race, 6 ancestor kings from the ancient clan, and 1 saint from the human race arrived in front of the ancient temple. In the eastern wasteland, there are still saints among the human race? Qin Mu hid in the darkness, looking at the human saint who suddenly appeared, a little surprised. He was an old saint from the human race. His beard and hair were all white, but his waist was straight. The aura of the ancient saint filled the air, sacred and peaceful. Wei Daoshu, you old guy is indeed still alive. An ancient king of the Yu clan cast his gaze at the human saint and said in a sinister voice. Haha, you are not dead, how can I die? The ancient human sage named Wei Daoshu said calmly. Oh, the eastern wasteland is so vast, and the ancient races dominate the world. The royal family and the royal family have endless heritage. Just because you, Wei Daoshu, want to be the protector of the human race in the eastern wasteland? That's ridiculous. Another ancient king of the Yu clan snorted coldly. Ridiculous? Maybe, but as long as I am still alive, if you want to do anything to me, the human race of the eastern wasteland, you have to step over my body. Wei Daoshu is smiling, but there is some helplessness in that smile. He is the most talented person born among the human race in the eastern wasteland. As early as thousands of years ago, his cultivation has broken the shackles and reached the realm of a saint. And since he has attained the realm of a saint, after cultivating, he rarely manifested in the human world. Instead, he had been hiding in secret to cultivate and protect the people of the Eastern Barren Territory. But as the ancient king of the Yu clan said, the Eastern Barren Territory is really too big. There are too many strong men from all races. Over the past thousands of years, Wei Daoshu has fought bloody battles with the royal ancestors of the ancient clan more than once to protect the safety of one human race. However, it is difficult for two fists to defeat four hands, and he cannot take everything into consideration to protect the entire eastern wasteland. Territory human race. After Wei Daoshu chatted with the two ancient kings of the Yu clan for a few words, they all turned their attention to the ancient palace that was floating in the void. The purpose of everyone's trip was for this place that was born out of the sky. The ancient palace was full of demons. Even the two ancient kings who originally chased Duan Yun's Hung did not pay much attention to Duan Yun's Hung at this time. The ancient clan is extremely realistic and cold-blooded. The bones of their ancestors, although important, what may exist in this mysterious ancient palace in front of you is obviously more important. Besides, the human Taoist priest is here and cannot escape. His matter will be solved sooner or later. Roar. This place was left behind by a former Supreme Dao Emperor of our demon clan. It has nothing to do with you, so please retreat. The red ferocious ape roared, with a pair of lantern-sized eyes looking at the ancient palace full of surprise. On top of the ancient palace, a series of ancient demonic inscriptions were engraved. The content of the demonic inscriptions were the three words Demon Emperor's Palace. The Demon Emperor's Palace. The mighty demonic aura that is suspected to be mixed with the aura of the extreme. When these factors come together, it is easy for these demon saints to come to the conclusion. This ancient palace that was born out of nowhere must be the same as the demon clan's past. It is related to the emperor. Is it related to a monster emperor? Haha, in this case, it is even more appropriate to worship. A royal ancestor of the ancient clan spoke with an inexplicable voice. He was covered in silver light, and his beard, hair, and skin were all bright silver. He was a royal ancestor of the Silver Royal clan. That's right, since it was left by the emperor, we should enter it and worship. Open the ancient palace and go inside to worship the demon king. The remaining ancient kings also agreed. In fact, they don't care who this ancient palace is related to. Even if it is really left by a demon emperor in the past, so what? The ancient palace was left by the demon emperor, but the things in the ancient palace are not certain. These monsters still want to let themselves and others leave? They are simply dreaming. The words of several ancient kings made the three demon saints look angry. The thoughts of the ancient kings, how could you not know? But the difference in power between them is too great at the moment. There are only 3 saints from the demon clan in 10,000 Demon Ridge. But there are 6 saints from the ancient clan. If it drags on, there may be many saints from the ancient clan are here. In that case, the situation will be more complicated. Let them in. Since this place is related to a former emperor of our demon clan, then we are not afraid. The emperor has a spirit, so how can he allow foreigners to contaminate his relics? The golden god bull stared with eyes as big as lanterns and transmitted a message to Red Ape and Tianluan. Red Ape and Tianluan looked at each other and nodded, agreeing with the golden god cow's opinion. After the 3 demon saints reached an agreement, regardless of the 6 primordial kings, they did not even expel the human saint Wei Daoshu. Instead, they investigated the ancient palace in front of them and studied the method of entering the ancient palace. The human race and the primordial tribes did not get along. It is estimated that the other party did not expel Wei Daoshu because they hoped that Wei Daoshu would come later. Shuneng had a conflict with the ancient kings of the ancient clan, so that they could fish in troubled waters. The three ancient saints of the demon clan stopped caring about others, walked to the door of the ancient palace, and began to study the ancient palace in front of them. The six ancient kings looked at each other. He also stepped forward. The stone gate of the ancient palace was 10,000 feet high. At first glance, it looked like a towering magic mountain. It was difficult to see the end, which was awe-inspiring. On the stone gate, there were various marks carved on it, like the sun and the moon. The image of the spirit appeared, and there were also lines of ancient demonic inscriptions engraved in it. The three demon saints of the ancient clan stood in front of the stone gate and carefully studied the ancient demonic inscriptions inscribed on the stone gate. After a while, they got an idea that made them all shocking conclusion. This ancient palace of the demon emperor turned out to be the product of an unknown number of years ago. I am afraid it must be at least millions of years old. Moreover, this ancient palace was not created by the demon emperor. It is an ancient palace that was shaped and forged by all the spirits of the world in order to commemorate the demon emperor's death. The demon emperor of the generation was an invincible existence that stood at the pinnacle of the extreme path, overlooking the heavens and the world. Such existences are also will there be enemies. What happened a million years ago that caused all the spirits to pay homage to the demon emperor? In front of the stone gate, all the kings, ancestors, and ancient saints were shocked, their eyes full of shock. Fantasy, I am the big boss behind the scenes. Author, Guanyun Taoist. Chapter 74. The conclusion of the ancient palace built by Wanling to commemorate the death of a generation of demon emperors is really shocking and feels so illusory and unreal. To be called the demon king, he must be a person with the ultimate cultivation level. Is there anything else in this world that can pose a threat to such existence? Entering the ancient palace, you will naturally know everything. The golden sacred cow looked up at the extremely majestic stone door and said in a loud voice. Everyone else had no other thoughts at this time. They just wanted to open the stone door and enter the ancient palace. Seeing that the ancient king of the Yu tribe seemed to be temporarily, he had no intention of doing anything to himself, and for some reason, Duan Yunzheng was a little disappointed. There was a vague feeling in his heart that the most dangerous thing here might not be the magnificent ancient palace, but the seemingly inconspicuous solitary tomb behind him. Just now, as soon as he wanted to open the tomb, his heart was filled with an indescribable sense of danger. It seemed that as long as he dared to take any action, he would be in disaster and die without a burial place. Duan Yunzheng believed that his feeling was not wrong. Just now, he deliberately stood in front of this lonely grave, just to prevent the ancestor king of the Yu clan from attacking him. Duan Yunzheng had a premonition that if the ancestor king of the Yu clan really dared to attack him, it would endanger the lonely grave at his feet. The ancestor king of the Yu clan will definitely pay an extremely painful price. But unfortunately, compared to him, the ancient king of the Yu clan is obviously more interested in the existence in this ancient palace. Unfortunately, Duan Yunzheng also, instead of leaving, he boldly followed the ancient saint of the human race and wanted to enter the ancient palace. Although you discovered this place, I can't protect you if danger occurs. Wei Daoshu glanced at Duan Yunzheng and said calmly. Although he is a human saint, in this situation, entering the ancient palace alone and facing 6 ancestor kings and 3 demon saints, he is already in great danger, so naturally he does not have any extra energy to protect others. No problem, I just want to go in and have a look. And if I want to leave, these 2 ancient kings of the Yu clan will probably not let me leave. Duan Yunzheng chuckled. Seeing Duan Yunzheng like this, Wei Daoshu shook his head and said nothing. He and others came to the stone door of the ancient palace, preparing to open the stone door and enter the ancient palace. 8 saint-level masters took action together and the stone door was pushed open little by little. boom, the stone door was pushed open, and the eternal and vast breath escaped from behind the stone door. Although it is known from the records on the stone door that this place was created by all living beings millions of years ago to pay homage to the demon, built by the emperor. But it is not certain whether there is any danger here. So everyone was very careful when entering the ancient palace and did not become careless. But when everyone stepped into the ancient palace, everything changed. Inside the ancient palace, there was a vast expanse. In the world, ancient trees stand tall, mountains are majestic, there is abundant spiritual energy between heaven and earth, and white fairy mist surrounds the mountains, like a fairyland outside the world, giving people the illusion of being in a dream. It was a great feat to intercept a small world and smelt it in this ancient palace using the means of Sumerana ring. An ancient king sighed. He casually condensed a small world into an ancient palace. This method is something that even an ordinary ancient sage cannot do. I am afraid that only those who have reached the legendary realm of the great sage can possess this means. Keep moving forward. The demon saints looked at each other and couldn't bear it anymore. They took the lead to climb over the mountains and walked forward. The 6 ancient kings, the human saint Wei Daoshu, and Duan Yunzhong also followed closely behind. They climbed over several times. Mountains, the vision in front of us finally widens, and there are no mountains to block it. But in their place, there are immortal monuments. Ancient monuments, hundreds of feet high, flowing with the vast atmosphere, stand on this vast land. Ancient monuments, there are hundreds of monuments in total. They stand together like a forest of steel and stone, majestic and majestic. The stone monuments are continuous and towering into the sky, as if they have been standing here for millions of years. There seems to be something recorded on the stone tablet. Demon Saint Tianluan, with eyes as bright as lightning, flapped his divine wings and arrived in front of the forest of stone monuments. They are all ancient demon texts. Tianluan scanned the stone tablets in front of him and found that the silver hooks and iron paintings on the stone tablets were all engraved with ancient demonic inscriptions. Are these ancient tablets recording the life and deeds of this demon emperor? Tianluan's eyes only glanced at the ancient stele for a few times before showing a look of shock. Because he discovered that the ancient demon inscriptions on these ancient stele seemed to record deeds related to the demon emperor, recording thousands of things. The spirit commemorated the demon emperor. Everyone stepped forward to explore the content of the demon inscriptions on the ancient stele, wanting to know information related to the demon emperor. As the demon inscriptions on the ancient stele were translated line by line, one after another, scenes seemed to be displayed in front of everyone along with the translated ancient demon texts, revealing to them a corner of the life of this demon emperor from the distant ancient times. As they understood more and more, even as an ancient king and demon saint, he couldn't help but be shocked by the content recorded between the lines. Looking at the ancient monuments and lines of demonic writing, everyone's thoughts seemed to have traveled millions of years ago. We have come to that extremely mysterious era. The vast land, all races coexist, geniuses rise together, and the world is magnificent. It was a splendid world, where geniuses, evildoers, and sacred bloodlines emerged in endlessly, surprising the world. And it was here. In the bright world, an inconspicuous snow rabbit was originally the weakest creature and would not attract anyone's attention or care at all. Although his origin was so weak and insignificant, he was just a snow rabbit. However, he did not give up because of this, but kept moving forward, strengthening himself bit by bit, transforming his body and blood, and finally reached the top, becoming the supreme being of all generations, the only one in the world. This is a myth-like story. Its history is simply unbelievable. A snow rabbit, but it keeps getting stronger, defeating all kinds of geniuses and evildoers, and finally reaches the top of the mountain, attacking the 9 heavens and subduing the 9 netherworlds. Its grace is unparalleled in the world. Is this the demon emperor from a million years ago? So stunning and unforgettable. Wei Daoshu sighed, his voice full of shock, and he was obviously shocked. Otherwise, the record on this ancient tablet is really amazing. If it were spread, it would be enough to shock the world. It's just a snow rabbit, with qualifications not even as good as mortal blood. But in the end, he moved forward all the way, defeated all the geniuses from all directions, carved a blood-stained imperial path, and became the Demon Emperor. How could it be possible without amazing and unparalleled talent? Ask the world who can do this. Only the Demon Emperor. Fantasy, I am the big boss behind the scenes. Author, Guanyun Taoist. Chapter 75. You receive shocking points at 25,454 from Tianluan. You receive shock points at 28,974 from the Golden God Cow. You receive shock points at 24,411 from Akazaru. You receive shocking points at 31,221 from Wei Daoshu. You receive from. Beside the stone forest of ancient monuments, the shock points increased again. Qin Mu stood quietly, observing everyone's reactions. From a snow rabbit, he transformed into a demon king who reached the pinnacle of the world. Is there really such a great existence in the history of our demon clan? The golden god bull said to himself in shock, his voice full of shock. Without him, the experience of the demon king is too legendary. A snow rabbit with low bloodline rose up in the bright world and defeated all directions. The enemy is finally waiting to reach the pinnacle of Ji-Dao and aspire to be the highest. After becoming the strongest, his bloodline has undergone earth-shaking changes. He is no longer weak as before. According to legend, a drop of blood can kill a giant dragon. The unparalleled Demon Emperor can do this. How extraordinary must his talent be? Wei Daoshu couldn't help but sigh. Looking at the narration of the Demon King's life and deeds on this stone tablet, a figure couldn't help but appear in his mind. The same mortal blood, the same talent that amazes the ages, and the same final climb to the top, invincible in the world. Exactly. There are rumors among the people in the Eastern Wasteland that the ruthless Empress once manifested in the Eastern Wasteland. Unfortunately, I was not present when the traces of the ruthless Empress appeared in the past. I wonder what the life of the ruthless Empress was like. Compared with the Demon King, which one of them is weaker and stronger? Standing in front of the forest of stone monuments, everyone had mixed emotions and emotions. The three demon saints showed reverence in their eyes. They never thought that in the history of the demon clan, there is such a stunning existence that can be called a unique legend in the world of monsters. Continuing forward, there must be something else besides the stone tablet. The saints did not stay here for long before they continued on their way. As they left, a ray of doubt arose in everyone's hearts. In the forest of ancient monuments, it was recorded that the Demon King rose from a weak point to a straight line. Climbing to the top of the extreme path, he ruled the vast universe, and was in awe of all the 9 heavens and 10 earths. But there was not much else recorded. It did not mention whether the Demon King had any powerful enemies or experienced any wars. In this case, why should all living beings want to build this ancient temple of the Demon Emperor to pay homage to the Demon Emperor? I think the Demon Emperor, like other ancient emperors, cannot withstand the erosion of time. Eventually, he will grow old and frail and die in the world of mortals. An ancient king guessed. This is the only possibility. In the vast world, among all living beings, no one can defeat the existence of the ultimate extreme. This is an iron law. The one who can defeat the Demon Emperor who has been stunning for eternity, maybe there is only the power of time. The three demon saints remained silent and continued to move forward. This was actually their guess. Time is like a sword cutting down the genius. No matter how heroic you are, you will be astonishing for eternity. In the end, you still cannot resist the sword of time. Your body will decay, and your soul will be destroyed. Decayed, and finally had to sit in the world of mortals, leaving behind eternal regrets. Is it really so? I don't think so. Duan Yunzheng murmured in a low voice. He didn't see it that way. Because he believed that the creatures who had reached the pinnacle of the ultimate path with their mortal bodies were different from other ancient emperors and might have more divine power. Just like before in Dong Huang, the human empress who appeared in the realm defied heaven and lived for 4 lives. In the end, it was suspected that she did not die, but lived forever in the world of mortals. The demon emperor, like the ruthless empress, both rose with mortal blood and killed everyone in the world. Who finally reached the top? Both of them have talents that are astounding forever. What the ruthless empress can do, the demon emperor may also be able to do. However, although everyone speculated, they still did not stop moving forward. Because the truth may lie ahead. Everyone walked forward, passed through the forest of ancient monuments, and climbed over several mountains, and their eyes opened up again. There are ancient monuments standing again, but unlike before, there are only 2 ancient monuments standing here. The golden sacred cow looked forward, with bright eyes and a low voice. This place is an open land like before. But the difference is that there are hundreds of ancient monuments standing in the open land before. And here, but only 2 ancient stels stand. But although there are only 2, either of the 2 ancient stels standing here is much more magnificent and majestic than the previous ones. The 2 ancient stels are as high as thousands of feet, like ancient magic mountains, towering between heaven and earth. Especially the last ancient stele, it is even more brilliant and brilliant. An immortal energy that covers all the heavens and worlds is released, which is shocking. Everyone hurriedly step forward and look at the ancient stele. There is nothing on the first ancient stele, only an immortal picture, recording a picture. In the picture, a majestic ancient palace stands, rising and falling between heaven and earth. It is the demon emperor's palace. And in front of the demon emperor's palace, there are 3 figures standing silently. When looking at those 3 figures, whether they are the 3 saints of the demon clan, the 6 ancient kings, or Wei Daoshu and Duan Yunzheng, their faces, Shangji showed an expression of disbelief. It was as if he had seen something unbelievable. The first figure had flying hair, slender clothes, and a slender figure with peerless grace. A bronze mask was attached to her. Her face covered her unparalleled appearance, but it could not cover her aura that was as stunning as a fairy coming to the dust. The second figure, with black hair like a waterfall, majestic, had a kind of force that pushed across the 3 realms and 6 realms, swallowing the air. The pride of the ages. A black and yellow bell hung high above his head, with thousands of black and yellow chi hanging down, covering everything. The third figure had the same heroic and mighty posture, and he stood with his hands behind his back, with an ancient mouth on his head. The cauldron emerged, with billions of rays of fairy light flowing, and at the same time thousands of maternal auras drooped down. He just stood there quietly, but like a heavenly emperor, he seemed to be able to suppress all enemies in the world. The ruthless empress, the great emperor Wuxi. After seeing the 3 figures on the ancient stele, Wei Daoshu finally couldn't help but exclaimed. The ruthless empress and the Wuxi emperor, the 2 former strongest figures of the human race, had just appeared in the eastern wasteland. Not long after they disappeared, how could Wei Daoshu not know about them? Not only the ruthless empress and the great emperor Wuxi, but also another most powerful person from the human race with a big cauldron on his head, ranked with them. The 3 former most powerful people from the human race gathered in the demon in front of the palace. Why did they come? There is also the ruthless empress, the great emperor Wuxi, and another man who is like the emperor of heaven. In this ancient painting on the stone tablet, they actually broke the myth, and at the same time I am in this life. Is this true, or is it a fabrication by future generations? If true, the results will be so shocking that it is simply unimaginable. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Fantasy, I am the big boss behind the scenes. Author, Guanyun Taoist. Chapter 76. The ruthless empress, the great emperor Wuxi, and a powerful human being who was as powerful as the emperor of heaven stood in the same row as the two of them, standing in front of the demon emperor's palace. Such a scene is almost like a myth, unbelievable. This is impossible. The emperor does not see the emperor. Only one emperor and emperor can be allowed to exist in the world. He is alive and he is dead, and he is alive only after he is dead. The two emperors do not meet each other. How could there be so many strong men living in the same life? An ancient king stared at the ancient steel in front of him and categorically denied it. In his eyes, the stars were disillusioned and the terrifying scene of the vicissitudes of the mountains and rivers emerged. But there was an undetectable tremor in the tone of this ancient king's words. It was enough to prove how unpeaceful he felt at the moment. It's really impossible, it's simply ridiculous. The three most powerful people stand together for the same life? This universe, this world, can only support one supreme being. It is absolutely impossible. A royal ancestor of the Yu clan followed closely and denied. After the previous incident in which Wuxi Zongbo killed 5 ancient royal ancestors and shocked the Eastern Barren Territory, most of the ancient tribes in the Eastern Barren Territory they have accepted the fact that there may have been Yakuza in the human race. However, they still cannot believe, or rather they cannot believe, that there will be the most powerful human race, standing in the distant river of time, immortal and able to stand together. This is simply impossible. Perhaps there is a possibility that millions of years ago, this world was powerful enough to allow many deities to attain enlightenment together. The golden sacred cow said in a low voice. Although it does not believe that there will be many powerful men who stand at the top of the world in one life, it is not as absolute as the ancient kings. Perhaps, millions of years ago, the world was prosperous. Prosperity is not like the ancient times, which can only allow one person to achieve enlightenment, but how can it allow many people to achieve enlightenment? However, even this inference is too shocking. The three most powerful people have been established in the same life, and it's the human race. The meaning behind this is simply unimaginable. Could the world of millions of years ago allow many people to attain enlightenment? Maybe. But there is another possibility, that is, these three strongest men of our human race may have taken another step above the ultimate peak, and may have understood the true secret of immortality. Wei Daoshu's eyes were solemn and he said slowly. Compared with the inference of the golden sacred cow, he was more willing to believe his own guess. After all, judging from the traces of the ruthless empress and the Wuxi emperor, both of them were too. It was extraordinary, even faintly compared to the brilliance of all the ancient emperors of the ancient clan. The ruthless emperor used his mortal body to prove the Tao and killed all the kings. His talents shocked the ages. He stood at the pinnacle of the extreme realm and beheaded him. In the past, he lived 4 lives against the will of heaven and became immortal in the world of mortals. The great emperor Wuxi had an extremely noble status. He was the descendant of the great emperor of the human race and the Dachan holy body. He was extremely powerful throughout his life. No matter what kind of opponent he faced, he was always the best. Pushed past. It even made a former quasi-emperor of the demon clan express his emotion that he would rather meet the ancient emperor of the Ji-Dao and never meet the human race without beginning. These two are both amazing existences for the ages. Perhaps, the ruthless emperor and the great emperor Wuxi, they have all taken one step further to the pinnacle of the extreme realm, and may have entered another unimaginable realm. However, facing Wei Daoshu's inference, the ancient king sneered in response. Ridiculous, ridiculous. Do you really think that the great emperors of your human race in the past were stronger than the ancient emperor? How can it be? If they really broke through the realm of the extreme realm and became immortal in the world of mortals, why have they never manifested themselves in the world for hundreds of thousands of years in the ancient times to protect you, the human race? An ancient king retorted disdainfully. If the human race really had a great emperor who broke the law of immortality and became immortal in the world, how could it be possible to see the human race fall to where it is today? Therefore, there is only one possibility, and that is that these so-called human races, the great emperor has long since died and no longer exists in the world. Wei Daoshi shook his head and did not refute, but turned his attention to the second ancient monument. He knew that he could not convince these ancient kings, and the other party would definitely not believe it. Compared with this, he wanted to know what was recorded on the second ancient stele. Not only Wei Daoshu, but also other saints gradually recovered from the shock of the first ancient stele and began to record it. Their eyes turned to the second ancient stele. Millions of years have passed, and no one knows the authenticity of the ancient paintings engraved on this ancient stele. Perhaps, they can find the answer on the second ancient stele. The saints' eyes are all focused on the second ancient stele. And everyone is using their celestial vision, and their eyes looking at the ancient stele are radiant. Because this ancient stele is too extraordinary, surrounded by a hint of supreme aura, the surface of the ancient stele was shrouded in brilliant light. If you don't look at it with your heavenly eyes, you can't see what is recorded on this ancient stele. The saints turned their heavenly eyes to look at the second ancient stele. I finally saw it. On the ancient stele, there was a line of divine inscriptions recorded. It was written in human script. And every word seemed to contain earth-shattering, terrifying power. There was an invincible belief that suppressed the 9 heavens and 10 earths and pushed across the 3 realms and 6 paths. Even just the breath escaping from the font is exciting, as if it is resonating with this line of words. For 2 generations, he alone ruled the netherworld road, shouldering all the sorrows of the ages. This is what is recorded in this ancient monument, the words on it. A line of ancient characters has been immortal for millions of years, and there is an invincible belief flowing between the lines. Every font is like a blazing sun, emitting infinite light and heat, making people unable to see directly. Vision. Moreover, this line of ancient characters seemed to have a kind of magical power. When the will of the saints gathered on it, an ancient picture appeared in front of them in a trance. In the picture, 3 figures stood towering above the sky. The figures that shocked the world for eternity stood together, standing quietly in front of the demon emperor's palace. It was exactly the scene depicted in the first ancient stele. The ruthless empress, the Wuxi emperor, and the man with the black and yellow cauldron of heaven and earth on his head, like the emperor of heaven, the 3 of them just stood there quietly, but the energy they exuded was making the whole world tremble. The void was shattered, chaos surged, the endless paths interacted, and the 10,000 paths trembled, as if they were about to open up the world. The 3 of them he stood quietly in front of the demon emperor's palace, as if waiting for something, and as if he was paying homage to something. After a long time, the 3rd man, who looked like the emperor of heaven, moved. He raised his palm, and a majestic, the immortal monument appeared from the void. Immediately afterwards, he left this line of divine inscriptions on this ancient monument. This road was paved with the blood and lives of the most outstanding figures from generation to generation throughout the ages. The Demon King is a respectable pioneer. What we can do is to continue their will, not to let down their efforts, to calm down all turmoil and heal all pain. All this will be ended by us. A long and long sigh came from the mouth of this man who was like the Emperor of Heaven. Every word weighed more than 10,000, making the whole world resonate and tremble. It was like the order of the Emperor of Heaven, commanding the whole world, no one dares to disobey. As the words fell, the entire picture began to become fainter, and finally disappeared from the eyes of the saints and returned to nothingness. But the scene in the picture was forever imprinted in the hearts of everyone present, making them unforgettable forever. Fantasy, I am the big boss behind the scenes. Author, Guanyun Taoist. Chapter 77. A man who looked like a heavenly emperor once left this ancient monument in front of the demon emperor's palace. His strength was so powerful that all the ways of heaven and earth interacted with each other and engraved some of the principles. Only then, millions of years later, did he display all this in the form of pictures in front of the saints. There are really three powerful men who stand at the top of the world and have stood together for the entire life. The golden sacred cow trembled, its eyes widened in disbelief. Before, he had doubts about the content depicted on the first ancient tablet. He even thought that such a picture might not exist. Everything they were all conjectures and fabrications of the person who left this inscription. But now, after witnessing the second ancient stele with my own eyes, all suspicions were overturned. The golden god bull knew that in the distant past, it really was a scene like this. Three beings who stood at the pinnacle of the extreme realm had lived in the same life and appeared together in front of the demon emperor's palace. Because the aura of those lines was too extraordinary, and only those who had cultivated their abilities could reach the supreme realm. Only the existence of the world can be left. The picture presented in front of them is also a picture formed independently by the understanding of the principles of heaven and earth, recording everything that has happened. Therefore, the ruthless emperor, the Wuxi emperor, and a god like the emperor of heaven, the three strong men stood in front of the demon emperor's palace. This scene really happened millions of years ago. It was not a lie. Faced with the shocking words of the golden god bull, this time, even the six ancient kings did not refute. In other words, they don't know how to refute. The ironclad facts are right in front of them, and everything is true. The first ancient tablet is probably a creature from millions of years ago. After witnessing the three supreme beings coming to the demon at the same time, in front of the imperial palace, this scene from ancient times to the present is just a scene engraved on it. However, after confirming that all this is true, there are endless doubts lingering in the hearts of the saints. Millions of years ago, could the heaven and earth really be true? If things are different from what they are now, can multiple Jideo gods be allowed to coexist for a lifetime? Or, do these three people really break the myth and reach a higher level above the Jideo realm, reaching a higher level and being able to compete in the world of mortals? Immortality. Also, why did these three beings gather in front of the demon emperor's palace? Are they paying homage to the demon emperor? Who is that man who looks like the emperor of heaven? Why did he leave such a legacy to a generation of demon emperors? This kind of evaluation? 2 lives alone guarded the netherworld road, and 1 shoulder carried all the sorrows of eternity. Where is the netherworld road, and it actually needs a demon emperor to guard it, and he has guarded it for 2 consecutive lives? There are too many doubts lingering among everyone's heart. Damn it, immeasurable heavenly Lord, Pandeo always feels that something big is going to happen this time. He wants to witness a true history millions of years ago and reveal a corner of the truth. Duan Yunchen's heartbeat was beating fast, but his eyes were full of excitement. The reason why he likes to dig graves is not only to take revenge on the ancient tribes, but also because he is very curious about the history before the ancient times. Duan Yunzheng wants to know, then, a period of years that was buried by history. He wanted to know even more, what happened that caused a gap in history, and the history of all living beings seemed to be cut off, without any records. And now, a corner of the truth seems to be coming to the he slowly opened. Keep moving forward. The saints stood quietly in front of the 2 ancient steles for a long time, and finally set off again, walking forward. The small world is vast, full of spiritual energy, and filled with colorful haze. The fairy mist transpired, turning into light rain. The overflowing light dyes the mountains and ancient trees here with gorgeous and mysterious colors. The mountains here are majestic, the mountain scenery is magnificent, the grass and trees are strong, and the silver waterfalls are like water, making it look like a paradise. But the saints did not relax. Be careful. Although this place looks very peaceful on the surface, it is related to a generation of demon emperors after all. It should be treated with caution and not to be underestimated. There are also several ancient emperors of Jideo who have sacrificed their royal ancestors' holy soldiers and hung them above their heads to protect their safety. Holy the soldiers flowed with brilliance and divine light, holding several royal ancestors under their bodies, making the three demon saints jealous. Even Wei Daoshu was very envious in his heart. The demon clan is not proficient in the art of weapon refining, so even if the ancient saints of the demon race rarely have holy weapons that match their own. As for the human race, it is because the fairy materials for training holy weapons are too rare and extremely difficult to find, so it is difficult for the ancient saints to possess them. His own holy weapons. But the ancient tribes are different. They have rich resources and are proficient in the art of refining weapons. Therefore, almost every ancient king has his own holy weapons. The saints stepped forward, and as they continued to deepen, there were actually traces of the aura of the Jideo Emperor, filling the air. Finally, the saints climbed over the immortal mountains, and finally stopped. In front of them, an ancient and majestic altar, quietly standing quietly between heaven and earth. It is difficult to describe how majestic this altar is, just like an immortal ancient sacred mountain. And on the top of this altar, there are 4 or 5 groups of light wrapped in a certain weapon, quietly arranged horizontally on the altar. Each ball of light is brilliant, exuding immortal brilliance, and there are also wisps of Jideo aura contained within the light ball. Are these the ultimate imperial soldiers? Tianluan flapped his wings and looked at the 4 or 5 rays of light at the top of the altar, his voice trembling, full of disbelief. Each of the 4 or 5 rays of light contained the ultimate imperial energy, which was shocking. This place there are actually 5 or 6 Jideo imperial weapons enshrined. If it is true, it is simply unimaginable. No matter what the truth is, get the treasure first. An ancient king of the Feather clan couldn't bear it any longer and rushed towards the top of the altar. He used all his strength to activate the magic weapon above his head to protect himself. At the same time, he stretched out a palm to catch the light groups on the altar. In the hand. However, at the next moment, something that no one expected happened. Whoosh! Suddenly, a blazing light flew from the altar, brilliant and dazzling, becoming the only thing in this world, making everything in the world lose its luster. It is so fast that it is beyond the understanding of all the saints. It is like a fairy light, passing across and penetrating all obstacles. Laugh. This ancient king of the Feather clan was shaken, with an unbelievable look on his face, and then he fell down, blood gushing wildly, and before his body even hit the ground, it turned into a brilliant rain of light and dissipated between the sky and the earth. As for the holy weapon above his head, it turned into dust, with nothing left. A blazing light shot out from the top of the altar, easily killing an ancient king. This scene instantly made the remaining saints feel awe-inspiring, and they did not dare to make any move, fearing that they would be chopped into ashes like the ancient king of the Yu clan before. The ancient king of the Yu clan fell, and the light returned to the top of the altar, and the 4 or 5 groups of light gradually dimmed, revealing the true appearance under the light. Not all of them are imperial soldiers, but fragments of an imperial soldier. Wei Daoshu looked at the top of the altar, his eyes shining, and he said in surprise. He saw that on the altar, there were several broken fragments of ancient soldiers, displayed there calmly. It seemed that they were all formed after the fragments of an ancient soldier. This broken ancient weapon, looks like the ultimate imperial weapon held by the Demon Emperor, the Demon Emperor ruler. The Golden God Bull spoke, and his voice was full of shock. On the ancient altar, the surfaces of the several broken ancient soldiers were all flowing with clear light, simple and vast. And when these broken ancient soldiers were put together, they were consistent with the previous records in the stone tablets. The weapon held by the Demon Emperor, the Demon Emperor's ruler, is almost the same. The Demon Emperor's ultimate weapon, the Demon Emperor's ruler, was actually broken and was enshrined here. No, it's not the complete Demon Emperor's ruler, only half of it. Wei Daoshu said in a solemn voice. When the fragments of the Demon Emperor's ruler on the altar were put together, it was not a complete demon emperor's ruler, but only half of it. The so-called indestructible G-Deo divine weapon was actually broken into pieces and was enshrined here. And there are only half of the fragments of the demon emperor ruler. Why did the demon emperor ruler break into pieces? Where is the remaining half of the demon emperor ruler? Looking at the fragments of the demon emperor ruler on the ancient altar, the saints were filled with shock. And the meaning of doubt. Fantasy, I am the big boss behind the scenes. Author, Guanyun Taoist. Chapter 78. The altar is magnificent and connects the sky and the earth. 5 broken pieces of the demon emperor's ruler lay quietly on the altar, filled with the aura of the ancient emperor. The surface of the fragments shows 2 colors of green and gold. According to legend, the demon emperor's ruler was made by taking the supreme immortal material and transforming it into green gold after the demon emperor attained enlightenment. On the day when the ruler was completed, the earth were shocked. The demon king's ruler was sacrificed, attacking the 9 heavens and exploring the 9 underworlds. All the heavens and the world were in awe. However, this extremely powerful weapon that once fought with the demon emperor to conquer all realms and pacify the world was now broken into several pieces and placed here. Even the remaining fragments are not enough to piece together the complete demon king ruler, only half of it can be pieced together. An imperial soldier who existed in the extreme realm was broken into pieces. An ancient king murmured to himself, his face full of shock. The G-Deo imperial weapon is made by a powerful G-Da warrior using supreme immortal materials. It is the hardest and most powerful ancient weapon in the world. It cannot be damaged at all and will survive with the world. This is the unanimous understanding of all living beings in the world, without exception. But now, 1,000,000 years ago, the ultimate weapon of a generation of demon emperors has been shattered, and only half of it is left. It is simply unimaginable. The saints were confused and frightened, not knowing what had happened. But at this moment, the entire altar suddenly glowed, brilliant and misty. The void fluctuated, and a figure in white appeared. He stood in front of the altar, with his back to the saints, looking at the broken demon king ruler in the distance, as if he was performing a memorial ceremony. At this moment, with the appearance of this white-clothed figure, an unparalleled pressure instantly spread. Everyone present almost instantly felt a sense of coercion that shocked the ages. They couldn't help but their knees trembled, and they had the urge to kneel down and kowtow to the figure in white. It's the Demon King. The golden sacred cow trembled and roared in his mouth. He saw clearly that there was a footprint in front of the magnificent altar. It was glowing at the moment, reflecting the image of the man in white. Presumably, there was an unparalleled being here in the past. Stopping, there are heaven and earth engraved in it, which have not dissipated to this day. They have been activated and revived by the arrival of everyone. And who will pay tribute and pay homage to the half-broken G-Deo imperial soldier here? Only the demon emperor. Millions a few years later, a generation of demon emperors reappeared in the world. After millions of years and smoke, the former supreme demon emperor manifested in the world again. In other words, it was not the demon emperor who manifested, but him who was here in the past. It's just the traces left behind. Scenes and pictures flashed before the eyes of the saints, making their bodies tremble and shocked. It was the reappearance of historical scenes millions of years ago. Although it was just a picture, it still made them feel there is a huge pressure that cannot be withstood. In the picture, there is a figure in white, standing proudly in the world. His white clothes are better than snow, his eyes are deep, and in his eyes, the terrifying scene of the disillusionment of the universe emerges. He just quietly standing there, standing under the eternal blue sky, there is a kind of aloofness that sees the world turn into smoke, but remains immortal. He is the unparalleled generation of demon kings. A feathered lapis lazuli ruler floats above his head, and billions of strands of immortals the brilliance flowed, and the ancient ruler seemed to be able to destroy the sky and the earth, and level the eternal world. The intact Demon Emperor ruler. At this moment, the Demon Emperor, with the Demon Emperor ruler on his head and his hands behind his back, seemed to be waiting for something. Finally, the Demon Emperor moved. He raised his eyes to the sky. His eyes were deep, shooting out sharp light, tearing the sky and the earth, cutting through everything. With the power of one glance, the eternal blue sky was shattered and ceased to exist. Above the 9 heavens, chaos surged, shaking the world. It seemed that he was angered by the Demon King's actions. One after another light fell from the 9 heavens, sharp and dazzling, like a world-destroying fairy light, causing the universe to explode, and the whole world was white. A single wisp can kill the ancient saint. However, such a terrifying attack could not fall on the Demon Emperor at all. It could not even get close to his body, and was overwhelmed by the supreme power that naturally escaped from the Demon Emperor's body. It was obliterated. The Demon Emperor moved forward with his hands behind his back, trying to reach the 9 heavens. Vaguely, he could see an ancient road emerging at the feet of the Demon Emperor. What kind of ancient road was that? Appearing from nothingness, connecting the 9 heavens, the ancient road. The road is shrouded in fairy mist, and there are even bursts of immortal auras spreading on it, which is extremely mysterious. The immortal road is the legendary immortal road. The Demon King wants to attack the path of immortality and become an immortal. An ancient ancestor of the ancient clan spoke in a trembling voice. He had seen the description of this ancient road in the oldest ancient book in the clan. This is the road to immortality. According to legend, in the past, when the ancient emperor stood in the world, there was also a road like this that connected with the immortal realm. According to legend, as long as you reach the end of this road, you can enter the legendary immortal realm, live forever, and become an immortal. However, this ancient road is too mysterious. With difficulties, even the ancient emperor cannot reach the end of this road. He will never see an immortal in his life. And in this scene, the Demon Emperor is actually on the road to becoming an immortal. Could it be said that the broken Demon Emperor's ruler is the crack related to the Demon King's forced journey to become an immortal? After all, in ancient times, it has never been heard that any Jideo being has succeeded in becoming an immortal. In this regard, even the Demon Emperor, who is astonishing for all eternity, is probably no exception. If he really breaks through, I'm afraid the only result waiting for him is failure. In this way, the shattering of the Demon Emperor's ruler does not seem to be an incomprehensible thing. The saints' moods are ups and downs, and their hearts are surging. And that picture is still going on. The Demon Emperor moved, with the Demon Emperor ruler above his head, standing in the eternal starry sky, walking on the legendary road to immortality. He wants to conquer the immortal road, enter the legendary immortal realm, and see immortality. The breath of the extreme is spreading, and the power belonging to the ancient emperor completely explodes. At this moment, the universe is completely white, and the chaotic mist rises, covering everything and blocking all the pictures. The saints can only feel that there is a supreme power, and the huge power explodes and confronts in that scene, trying to stop the Demon Emperor, prevent him from entering the path of immortality, and becoming an immortal. That power is so strong that the ancient sages are not enough to see it, and even the quasi-emperor is useless. I'm afraid even if the ancient emperor of Jideo comes, he will still have to bear the pressure and even be injured. But the Demon Emperor is really too strong. He is dressed in white and has a lapis lazuli ruler on his head. Okay. No force can stop him. He is majestic and majestic. He is breaking myths and creating his own immortal legend. Fairyland, the legendary fairyland. I saw it, the Demon King is going to become an immortal. The golden god bull roared with a trembling voice. He saw that in front of the Demon Emperor, there seemed to be a vast and majestic fairyland emerging. The Demon Emperor only needed to take one step further to completely penetrate it, and he would fly to immortality. A generation of demon emperors, he penetrated the path of immortality and created a bright world. The saints were excited. This was making history and creating an unprecedented myth. There was only one step left. If you took that step, you would become an immortal. The saints stared at the picture, hoping to witness the scene that would be recorded in the annals of history and immortalized forever. But what happened next was beyond everyone's expectations. The demon emperor stopped. He stood on the road to becoming an immortal and looked at the person not far away from him. The immortal realm that can be entered in just one step, the disillusionment in the eyes is uncertain, as if thinking and measuring something. The saints are puzzled, with doubts on their faces. You can become an immortal in just one step. What is there to hesitate? If you step forward, you will be able to completely break all the shackles of the world, no longer restricted by the shackles of longevity, and truly live as long as heaven, free and easy. Gain great relief and freedom. Well. A long and long sigh, full of unspeakable loneliness and helplessness. The demon emperor stopped and took a deep look at the immortal realm that was so close to him. In the end, he did not take the step and retreated from the immortal road millions of years ago. The peerless demon emperor embarked on the road to becoming an immortal, but finally stopped in front of the immortal realm, passing through the immortal realm without entering. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Fantasy, I am the big boss behind the scenes. Author, Guanyun Taoist. Chapter 79. The Road to Immortality. The motivation for many outstanding people and heroes in ancient times to cultivate throughout their lives is to be able to set foot on the road to immortality, reach the end, and achieve the goal of becoming an immortal. But throughout the ages, there has never been any living being that can do this. If you don't enter the realm of the extreme realm, you won't even have the qualifications to manifest this legendary ancient road to the fairyland. And even among the extremely powerful beings who have reached the pinnacle of all realms, no one in the annals of history has been able to break through the path to immortality and become an immortal. Generations of supreme beings, ancient emperors, conquered the 9 heavens and 10 earths, roaring proudly for eternity, but in the end they had to end sadly and die in the mortal world. Such an ancient road, longed for by the most powerful being in all eternity, was traversed by a generation of demon kings a million years ago. This is news that can overturn the world forever. As long as he takes one more step forward, the demon king will be able to completely escape from this path, ascend to the immortal realm, and become a flying immortal. Why on earth would the demon king pass through the immortal realm but not enter? What happened that made the demon king give up the opportunity to become an immortal and retreat from the road to immortality? The saints held their breath and looked at the demon king on the screen, their hearts filled with doubts and confusion. They wanted to know what happened to make the demon king decide not to enter the immortal realm. At the right time, in the right place, I have the peak combat power to compete with the sky. If I don't care about anything, I will definitely be able to enter the immortal realm, reach the highest level of sublimation, and fly to immortality. Unfortunately, I can't. The demon emperor sighed, with an indescribable loneliness and helplessness in his voice. The peerless demon emperor had the instinct to enter the immortal realm, become a legend, and become an immortal. But in the end, for some reason, he stopped in front of the immortal realm. And finally withdrew. The demon king's voice was full of helplessness. If possible, he would also like to step on the road to becoming an immortal and become an immortal all the way. But, he can't. I thought that reaching the pinnacle of the ultimate way would allow me to taste all the splendor of the world, but I never thought that it was just the starting point and beginning of everything. Only when you reach this realm can you know what you will face and endure. It was an eternity of unspeakable loneliness, a road full of endless loneliness and danger. If I left, who would guard it for all living beings? The demon king said to himself, with a hint of loneliness and helplessness in his voice. Listening to the demon king's words, all the saints were shaken. The history of millions of years ago seemed to be revealed in front of them, allowing them to glimpse I got a piece of the truth of history. The demon emperor's grace is unparalleled. The fact that he passed through the immortal realm and failed to enter is not because he lacks strength and cannot become an immortal. It's because something seems to be holding him back in this human world. And the demon emperor also did something. It was his own choice. He did not choose to enter the fairyland, but chose to stay in this universe. After the demon king's voice fell, the picture gradually fluctuated and dissipated in the void. And everything did not end there, because before the picture disappeared, at the same time, another picture emerged. When seeing this picture, all the saints present exclaimed, their voices full of disbelief. What? No, this is impossible. How could the demon king be like this? The tone of the saints was in disbelief, because the content in the picture was so shocking that they could not believe it. In the picture, there was still a generation of demon kings. He was still majestic, with peerless white clothes, but there were eternal vicissitudes in his eyes. Although he still has the invincible spirit to swallow up the world, he is already old and no longer as grand as before. What is even more shocking is that the current demon king is actually injured. The bright red blood is sprinkled on his white clothes, dots blooming, extremely eye-catching and sad, shocking. He still stands under the eternal blue sky, and his body is still as tall as a mountain, but there is a trace of blood overflowing from the corner of his mouth, which is frightening and shocking. The peerless demon emperor is actually injured. This is simply unbelievable. This is an invincible existence that stands at the pinnacle of the extreme. It represents the ultimate of all the ways in the world. Even if it is old, it can still suppress the eternal sky. Who in the world can hurt them? What's more, the demon emperor, who fought on the immortal road in the past, was not harmed by all the horrific punishments from heaven. Now, he is injured. Who did it? In the picture, the demon emperor is standing, and the demon emperor's ruler is hanging above him. The palms of his hands were trembling continuously, seeming to be wailing for the demon king. There is no need to feel sad for me. I have climbed to the top and tasted all the splendor of the world. I have fulfilled my promise and done my best, and I have no regrets in this life. The demon emperor caressed the ancient ruler in his hand, with a smile on his face, as if he was comforting this ancient weapon that had followed him for eternity. Buzz, the demon emperor's ruler, trembled, with a sense of depression and injustice, as if he was fighting for the demon emperor. Ming, it's not worth it for him. The opportunity to enter the immortal realm was presented to me in the past, but I chose to give up. But over these tens of thousands of years, I have never regretted it. On this road, there must always be pioneers who will use their blood and lives to level everything. At this time in my life, I have to do what I have to do. This is my mission. The demon king whispered, with a hint of hope in his eyes. After tens of thousands of years of pursuit, I seem to know the truth about a corner of history. Eons ago, someone once cut across eternity with a sword, cutting off all pain and darkness. Now, generations of pioneers have used their own blood and bones to repave this road to isolation from darkness. Will there be a latecomer with amazing talent who will imitate the former and end the eternity with one force, finally putting an end to all this? I look forward to it. It's a pity that I am old and have no companions, so I am unable to settle all this, and I cannot see the final outcome. The demon king caressed the feathered lapis lazuli ruler in his hand, his eyes full of memories and longing. He took a deep look at the ancient ruler in his hand, and then raised his hand and threw it up to the 9 heavens, shocking the heaven and earth with the aura of the great emperor. Emitted from the demon emperor's body, above the 9 heavens, the road to immortality, separated by tens of thousands of years, actually manifested again. I, Shui Yuking, am worthy of heaven and earth and worthy of all sentient beings in this life. I only owe her and you. You had the opportunity to follow me into the immortal realm, to be fully sublimated and turned into an immortal weapon, but in the end you had to accompany me to fall into the mortal world and fight for tens of thousands of years. Now, I will help you break through the fairyland and break into it. See that world for me and witness everything. Take a look at what is in this fairyland that makes everyone in the world obsessed and crazy. The Demon King roared, shaking the world. Even though he was seriously injured and his clothes were stained with blood, he still had a majestic momentum that was unrivaled in the world. The immortal path emerged, infinite immortal light exploded, and billions of rays of immortal light fell from the sky. Just like back then, the Demon King forced his way into the immortal road when he was at his peak. However, now the Demon King is old and seriously injured, and he has finally lived up to his invincible glory. He walked forward on the immortal road, his steps staggering and his body shaking, as if he might fall on the road at any time. However, he is still the invincible and unparalleled Demon King. Even if he is seriously injured, even if he is old and frail, he is still moving forward firmly, unstoppable. Finally, he once again reached the end of the immortal road thousands of years ago. He was only one step away from entering the immortal realm. The Demon King's ruler was clanking and trembling. It seemed that it did not want to enter the immortal realm in front of it, but just wanted to stay forever, accompanying the Demon Emperor's side. But the Demon Emperor's will cannot be violated. The Demon Emperor rushed out. With the help of the Demon Emperor, the power of G-Dao fully bloomed, trying to overcome this last obstacle and create a myth. However, just before at this critical moment, which was only a hair away from making history, the picture suddenly dimmed. In the picture, there was an indescribable powerful aura rising, suddenly erupting, fighting against the Demon King. Chaos surged, space collapsed, and everything was obscured. The saints could only hear the roar of the Demon Emperor and the clanking sound of the Demon Emperor's ruler. In the end, two pictures flashed in front of the saints, and then all the pictures disappeared, and everything became completely calm. In the first picture, an ancient and huge bronze plaque was hit by the Demon Emperor and turned into powder. On the plaque, the word Underworld was engraved. In the second picture, half of the Demon Emperor's ruler shattered and turned into 5 pieces fell into the chaos, but the remaining half of the Demon Emperor's ruler was glowing. With the help of the Demon Emperor, it broke through many obstacles, disappeared from the world, and truly broke into the fairyland. Fantasy, I am the big boss behind the scenes. Author, Guanyun Taoist. Chapter 80. The void was calm and the picture had dimmed. In front of the ancient altar, the peerless figure in white had disappeared, leaving only the half-handled Demon Emperor ruler broken into 5 pieces, which seemed to tell the story of the splendor and brilliance of a generation of peerless Demon Emperors millions of years ago. The image has dissipated, but the shock in the hearts of the saints cannot be calmed down. There was so much information contained in the scenes just now. Every picture seems to contain a shocking secret. The Demon Emperor is getting old and wants to conquer the path of immortality again, but this time it is not to become an immortal himself, but to send the Demon Emperor ruler, who has accompanied him for tens of thousands of years, into the immortal realm. In the end, the old Demon Emperor successfully sent half of the Demon Emperor ruler into the immortal realm. The remaining half of the Demon Emperor's ruler was broken into 5 pieces and fell into the chaos. Is this considered a success? The saints don't know. But the only thing that is certain is that at the critical moment when the Demon King was fighting on the immortal road, he encountered an unimaginably powerful enemy. There was a peerless divine punishment on the immortal road in front of him, and an unknown terrifying entity took action in the back to surround the Demon King. This is a sad song. The Demon King, who used to be invincible in the sky and on earth, and even though he broke through the immortal path, was still unharmed, encountered unimaginable disasters and difficult battles when he grew old. But it is a pity that the opponent of this battle is not revealed in the picture. Only the awe-inspiring and supreme aura proves the power of this great enemy. Hateful. Who is it that took advantage of the Demon Emperor's old age and frailty to take action? In the past, when the demon emperor was full of blood and was at the peak of his life, why didn't someone attack him? The eyes of the three demon saints were wide open, and they were all extremely angry. A generation of demon emperors finally ended up like this. As demon clansmen, they couldn't help but feel unwilling for the demon emperor. Let me ask, how could the demon emperor be in his prime in the past? Has an enemy ever attacked? He only dared to attack the demon emperor when he was old and frail. This person is not as good as the demon emperor. No need to be pessimistic. The result of this battle should be that the demon emperor wins. Wei Daoshu looked thoughtfully at the demon emperor's ruler that was broken into 5 pieces and the faint footprints on the grand altar. If the demon emperor had lost in this battle, how could it be possible to break the broken ruler? Half of the demon emperor's ruler is gathered together again. How could he ever stop here to pay tribute and remember this ancient divine weapon? Therefore, there is only one possibility, that is, in this battle, the demon emperor is winner. However, even if he wins, I am afraid that the demon king has really reached his limit. He is old and frail, and is seriously injured. He drags his sick body and sends half of the demon king ruler to the fairyland, and then fights with an unknown person. A battle between mysterious beings. Even if you are as magnificent as the demon emperor, you may have reached your limit and the lamp will run out. In the last pattern, the demon king once took action and beat a bronze plaque into fly ash. On the bronze plaque, the word underworld was recorded. I didn't expect the underworld to really exist. Could the opponent in the battle with the demon emperor come from the legendary netherworld? An ancient king has profound eyes and a faint voice. The underworld has been synonymous with mystery since ancient times. Although it has never manifested in the world, there are many monks in the universe who believe in the existence of the underworld. At the end of reincarnation, the underworld will be the destination of all souls. After death, the souls will come to the underworld and return to reincarnation. This is the belief held by many monks in the universe. They know that there is no hope for immortality, so they place their hopes for the future in the illusory underworld. It is believed that the underworld controls the reincarnation of the world and is a place that only the dead can reach. However, the theory of the underworld is illusory, but no one has ever really seen it. Even when the ancient Emperor Yizun was alive, he never saw it, not mentioning it at all. Therefore, there have been different opinions in the world as to whether the underworld exists. But now, the old demon emperor fought with the supreme being and broke a bronze plaque with the word underworld engraved on it. This seems to prove that the underworld exists. Not only does it exist, but its history is far beyond people's imagination. It already existed millions of years ago. And did the being who fought against the demon king come from the underworld? This is what the saints remembered before. Those 2 majestic ancient monuments. Previously, the man who looked like the Emperor of Heaven once left here the words 2 lifetimes alone will control the netherworld road, and 1 shoulder will carry all the sorrows of the ages, which seems to be an evaluation of the demon emperor. Netherworld road, is it the underworld? The reason why the demon emperor did not enter the fairyland but still stayed in the world of mortals was to suppress the unrest in the underworld. Too much confusion lingered in the hearts of the saints. At the same time, they also had too much in their hearts. What a shock! When they came to the demon emperor's palace today, they had witnessed too much and learned too much. The history of millions of years ago was still extremely mysterious, but only a small part of it had just been revealed to them. It's a pity that the imperial soldiers have spirits and cannot be taken away. An ancient king looked at the 5 fragments of the demon emperor's ruler on the ancient altar and said in a regretful voice, "The emperor's soldiers have spirit, and they just killed an ancient king who tried to get involved. If he still wants to take advantage of the demon emperor's ruler now, even if they were just fragments, it would probably be effortless to kill them." However, although the saints felt regretful and unwilling, they could only retreat reluctantly, preparing to leave the demon emperor's palace first, and then make plans. Perhaps the information about this place can be informed to the ancient royal family, and they can be asked to come with the Jideo imperial soldiers, which are only half-broken imperial soldiers. I am afraid they will not be able to withstand the suppression of the perfect imperial soldiers. Now, within this shattered demon emperor's ruler, there is no longer any spirit of the divine weapon, and it is just relying on its old obsession to revive independently. As long as the perfect imperial troops are suppressed and these obsessions are cleared, it can still be used. The eyes of several ancient kings and ancestors flashed, and they were making calculations in their minds. Even if it is just a fragmented Jideo divine weapon, its significance and value are beyond imagination. It is definitely worth fighting for with everything. Even if you can't get the complete Jideo god, soldiers, even if they only have one fragment, can exert far more power than the so-called holy soldiers. The saints have many things on their minds, and they have reached the point of fat on their lips. No one is willing to let them slip away like this. Several ancient statues king, have even begun to conspire and discuss with each other. Even the three ancient saints of the demon clan are also discussing at this time. After they go out, they will invite more powerful demon saints to come, otherwise they will definitely not be able to deter these ancient saints. Clan. The demon clan saints and the ancient king all look solemn and thoughtful. On the other hand, the human clan saints Wei Daoshu and Duan Yunzheng had extremely relaxed expressions. Wei Daoshu had never thought about fighting for the fragment of the demon king ruler. So his heart was extremely relaxed. Duan Yunzheng, on the other hand, had other thoughts in his mind. He had not forgotten the inconspicuous little ancient tomb before entering the demon emperor's palace. He had a hunch that the same thing as this demon emperor's palace compared to that, perhaps that small solitary tomb has a higher status and is more important. As for the demon emperor's palace, it is just a yangzi that confuses the view. What is truly precious is the yinzi, that is, that inconspicuous solitary tomb. After they get out, these guys had better fight for the fragments of the imperial soldiers in the demon emperor's palace. As for the creation in the yin tomb, I have to explore it carefully.